Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Music History. I'm so glad you're here again. So, in our last lesson, we explored the big picture of Western music history and we traced it from ancient times all the way to the music of the 20th century. It is like standing on a mountain and looking down at the entire musical landscape, right? But now it's time to zoom in. So today we're going to start at the very beginning, ancient music. This includes the music of ancient Greece, Rome, and early Christian worship. Now, let me ask you something. Have you ever wondered what music sounded like thousands of years ago? It's easy to imagine music today with speakers, AirPods, streaming apps, but in ancient times there were no recordings, no notation systems like we have now, and certainly no Spotify, no YouTube music, right? But even without modern tools, people still made music. In fact, music was deeply connected to religion, education, and daily life. Let me show you something. So today's goal is this. We're going to understand how people in the ancient world used music, how they thought about music, and how those early ideas shaped the music that came later, all the way to Bach, Beethoven, and beyond. Sound good? Great. Then let's dive into the world of ancient Greece. Let me move a little bit. Okay. Now that we've set the stage, let's look at how the ancient Greeks thought about music. For the Greeks, music wasn't just entertainment, it was part of the fabric of the universe. They believed that music could shape your soul, influence your emotions, and even affect your moral character. That music can influence your characters, emotions, and stuff. Let's take a look at the word itself. The word music comes from the Greek word,
Μουσική.
which literally means the art of the muses. Okay, let's see. Do you see these women? So, who were the muses? In Greek mythology, the muses are nine goddesses. They were daughters of Zeus, king of the gods, and the
Mnemosyne.
goddess of memory. It's hard to pronounce. Each muse inspired a different art or science. Okay, here we have all the nine muses, their names, their look. So let me name a few. Calliope, she was the muse of epic poetry. And Cleo, the first one here, she was the muse of history. And Erato, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. Erato, she is the muse of love poetry. And Euterpe, the muse of music and lyric poetry. And everybody else. So, in other words, the muses represented the inspiration behind all intellectual and creative pursuits. They were in charge of the arts and sciences. And to the Greeks, music wasn't just human expression, it was treated very serious and divine. Another important idea from ancient Greece is the belief in music of the spheres. Spheres. This was the idea that the planets and stars moved in a kind of cosmic harmony, even though we couldn't really hear it. the universe itself was making music. So Greek philosophers, especially Pythagoras, believed that the entire universe was built on numbers, and that music was the audible expression of those numbers. You see, this guy, the triangle guy. So let's talk more about Pythagoras. Yeah. The same guy famous for the triangle theory. He was also one of the first people to study the connection between math and music. So he discovered um, that when you divide a string exactly in half, it sounds an octave higher. If you like hit right in the middle, it sounds like octave higher. And this is because the string vibrates twice as fast as the length gets shorter. So that's a ratio of 2 to 1, right? But it didn't stop there. A ratio of 3 to 2 gives you a perfect fifth. A ratio of 4 to 3 gives you a perfect fourth. And ratio of 5 to 4 gives you a major third. And ratio of 6 to 5 gives you a minor third. So these are called simple whole number ratios. And the Greeks believe that because these numbers were simple and beautiful, the sounds they created were also beautiful and even divine. So they related numbers and music. So Pythagoras thought that these intervals were just pleasant. They reveal the order of the universe, the whole universe. So when you hear a perfect octave or fifth, do, do, and do, so, you're not just hearing music, you're hearing mathematics in action. That was his theory. This was the beginning of what we now call music theory. Okay. Next slide. Okay. So music was also a major part of education. In fact, two of the greatest philosophers, Plato, Plato and Aristotle, wrote about it. Okay. I'm gonna read a short paragraph of Plato's idea here, Plato's idea and Aristotle's idea. Okay, let me read. Uh, Plato believed that music had a powerful effect on the soul and should be carefully controlled in education. He thought that certain musical modes, like Dorian and Phrygian, promoted courage and self-discipline, while others, like Mixolydian or Lydian, encouraged laziness or emotional excess. For this reason, he suggested banning music that could negatively influence moral character. To him, music was not just entertainment, it was a tool for sharing virtuous citizens. He emphasized the importance of training young people in both music and gymnastics to create a harmony between mind and body. Yes. So Plato had more strict opinion towards music in education because certain modes, like mode, what is mode? I'm gonna explain later, but it's like a kind of scale. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do. Some kind of scale promotes some kind of scale promotes good influence, and some kind of modes like affect you in a bad way. That was his theory. So to him, music was not just entertainment. It was a tool for educate young people. So he emphasized the importance of training young people in both music and also exercise wise. So your soul and your body has to be trained equally in order to be healthy and good members of the society. Yes. So next, this guy, Aristotle, on the other hand, agreed that music shapes character, but his view was more flexible, while Plato focused on strict control. Aristotle believed music served multiple purposes: moral education, emotional release called catharsis, and enjoyment. He thought that different types of music could be used appropriately in different settings. Serious music in education and lighter music for relaxation and pleasure. Rather than banning certain modes, Aristotle supported a more balanced and practical approach to music in life and society. So Aristotle's view was a little more flexible. Mhm. That's why studying music in ancient Greece was just as important as learning math or philosophy, because back then in ancient Greece, the music was treated very seriously. Okay, not like philosophy. Okay, so to sum up, for for the ancient Greeks, music was something spiritual, mathematical, and moral. And it was a gift from the gods. You remember the muses, the nine goddesses, especially the muses. And it was part of both personal growth and universal order. Do you remember music of the spear? Pretty amazing, right? Now let's move from the theory of Greek music to how it actually sounded. So our question here is, how did ancient Greek music sound? Do we have anything left remaining? How did ancient Greek music actually sound? That's our question. The truth is, we don't know everything, but we do have some clues. The Greeks had a very advanced theory of music. They used what we now call modes. Okay, they're like ancestors of scales, major scales and minor scales. These were scales like ours, modern major or minor scales, but they each had different characters. For example, there's a mode called Dorian. Dorian mode was seen as strong and noble. And the Phrygian mode was considered emotional and passionate. And the Lydian mode was thought to be light and soft, different characters. And in ancient Greece, the mode called Mixolydian was avoided because people thought it sounded very sad and emotional. Philosophers like Plato, we just talked about him, believed it could make people weak or too emotional, so they didn't want it used in education or daily life. They preferred modes that helped build strong, balanced character. I believe Mixolydian is a mode something, like very sad or something. Yeah. Next, what kind of instruments did they play? Let's look at a few. You see the first one? That one. This is called lyre. It's a small harp-like instrument. Have you seen harp? There's a strong, very big string instrument you pluck or like slide your fingers on. That's a lyre, a small harp-like instrument, used for education and singing poetry. So, back then in ancient Greece, poetry was something they almost sang. Like people were singing when they recited the lyrics. Okay, the lyre was used for accompaniment for the poetry. Okay, the next one, kitara. It's a larger version of a lyre. It's a bigger lyre. It was used in concerts and festivals. String instrument, the kitara, and the aulos, which right here, the aulos. It's a double reed wind instrument, so you blow into it, and then what does double reed mean? You have to have a reed. It's called reed when like fragment, like small piece of woods stick together, two pieces of woods, and then if you blow into it, it vibrates and makes sound. Okay. Anyways, it's a wind instrument that sounded more like a modern day oboe or bagpipe, and the aulos was used in festivals or even battle. Maybe the sound was very loud or something because it was used in battles. And then we have panpipes, a set of pipes tied together, like you see in the picture, often played by shepherds. Mhm. The lyre was associated with Apollo, god of music and reason. The aulos was connected to Dionysus, god of wine and ecstasy, which gives you a sense of how different their sounds were. All the gods had different characters, you see. Then, did they have some kind of sheet music? You might be wondering, right? Did they write music down? Did they actually write it down? The answer is yes. The Greeks developed early musical notation using letters and symbols to indicate pitch and rhythm. So low pitch, high pitch, and the rhythm. Only a few fragments survive today because it's been a long time since the ancient days, but they give us a rare glimpse into their music. One of the oldest complete pieces of ancient music we have is called the Epitaph of Seikilos. We've heard the music last lesson. The Epitaph of Seikilos is the oldest complete piece of written music we've found. Yes, you know that. Here. All the letters and symbols engraved is all the notes. Yeah, and the lyrics. Okay, let's see the music sheet here. Here's the lyrics. What it says. While you live, shine. Don't suffer anything at all because life exists only for a short while and time demands its toll. Pretty serious. That's beautiful, right? We even have the melody thanks to the notation system they used. Yeah, their notation system was like this, using letters and symbols. Pretty inspiring. Yes. So, what can we take away from all this? What can we learn from all this? First, ancient Greek music was deeply tied to philosophy, science, and culture, and education. Two, it wasn't just about sound, it was about shaping the soul and connecting to the cosmos. Three, and even after thousands of years, some of the music still survives, like the epitaph of Seikilos. Isn't that incredible? Yes. Now that we've explored ancient Greece, next time we'll move into the world of the early Christian church and the birth of Gregorian chant in the medieval period. Now let's move forward in time. Oh, this way. As the Roman Empire, there was a big country called the Roman Empire, expanded across Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East. It brought with it Greek culture, including philosophy, architecture, language, and music. But something major happened. In the 4th century CE, under Emperor Constantine, Christianity became the official religion of the Roman Empire. This marked a huge shift. It was a big change, not just in politics or religion, but also in how people thought about music. The shift in musical culture. Mhm. And where large communities of believers gather, a lot of people gather and listen to the sermon. Cathedrals were often beautifully built with stained glass. You see in the picture, you see the stained glass and very tall ceilings that made a sound of singing echo, 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 which made chant sound even more powerful and spiritual. It's a quiet and isolated place where monks lived. Monks devoted their lives to prayer, study, and simple living. They followed strict daily routines that included several services throughout the day, and each service had chanting as part of its prayers. So music became part of the rhythm of their entire life. Okay, in both places, music was not for show. This is important. It was not for show. It was part of worship and daily spiritual practice. Spiritual. Okay, we're going to the next slide. It's a Byzantine chant. One of the earliest types of chant was actually Byzantine chant, which came from the Eastern Roman Empire, also known as the Byzantine Empire. Let's take a moment to understand what that was. When the Western Roman Empire collapsed in the 5th century, the eastern half lived on as the Byzantine Empire for like almost 1,000 years. Its capital was Constantinople, a city we know now as Istanbul in modern day Turkey. Turkey, the country. And the Byzantine Empire kept many Roman traditions but developed its own style of Christian art, architecture, and music. It adapted. And their form of chant, Byzantine chant, was used in the Eastern Orthodox Church. It sounds very different from Western chant, using more complex melodies and sometimes a different musical scale. Mhm. So later in Western Europe, Gregorian chant became the main style used in the Catholic Church, and that's what we'll study next time. Okay, I have a question for you. Why do you think early Christians avoided instruments and preferred only the voice? Second, can music be sacred without being emotional or exciting? Can you guys give the answers right away? Hmm? Okay, let's jump to the next slide. Okay, now we have a chart that compares ancient Greek music and early Christian chant. And their time, you already know. And the cultural context is the one people are tend to do it. So entertainment, education, moral development. Mhm. And for the early Christian chant, it's not completely new. They prayed, they meditate, and they glorify to God. And they ask, is there any instrument players? In ancient Greek music, they used instruments, of course. We've learned that just now. Lyre, aulos, kithara, and what else? Bagpipes. Okay. And for the early Christian chants, no instruments were used because early chants were just the a cappella without any accompaniment. So, what is their performance style? It's very active, ancient Greek music, played, sung, and often in public. Okay, but early Christian chant become reserved, sung by trained voices, someone, 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 and no instrumental accompaniment. Next, the texture is different, and musical notation, and philosophical meaning, and especially the language. So the location is, of course, in Greece and Roman Empire. Okay. So after studying this chart, let's pause and reflect. How did music go from something public and festive to something sacred and interval? What stayed the same? What stayed same was that music was still powerful and meaningful. It still helped people express deep emotions, teach ideas, and create a sense of order. Okay? So, whether for the gods or for God. So, that's it for today's journey through ancient music. Before next class, here is your assignment. I made a worksheet for you guys. Please do it. So, first task. Match the instrument with this description. 2. Describe one difference from Greek music and early Christian chant. Which piece did you enjoy more, Epitaph of St. Kilos or the chant? And bonus, try drawing a Greek instrument or an early church. That's a very easy one. Okay, so next time we'll move into the medieval period and learn about Gregorian chant, monks, and all the other music and the music of cathedrals. Okay? So thanks for listening. Finish your homework. Okay? Bye, everybody.